pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today is Tuesday, October 11, 2022, the time being 5:30 p.m. The meeting of the Greensburg Board of Works is called to order. At this time, please silence all electronic devices. To comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the city requests that participants complete a voluntary anonymous survey that is available on the table in the back of the room. Amy's unable to be with us, as she mentioned last month, so Julie Nolly is filling in for her. Julie, would you please call the roll?
Jamie Kane.
Here.
Karen Rust. Here. Rodney King.
Here.
Glenn Tebby.
Here.
You all should have received a copy of the minutes from September 13, 2022. Any edits, additions, or corrections to those? If not, would take a motion to approve those as presented.
I will abstain though, please. Second.
Motion's been made by Dee, second by Rodney. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And an abstention.
Please. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. There being no old business, we'll move directly to new business. David Rainey with the Veritas Group is here to discuss a modification to DLZ's scope of work. As a reminder, David is our owner's representation for the Fire Station Street Department Campus Project. Good evening, David.
Thank you, Mayor, Board. This evening before you have two documents. One is the DLZ modification to their original agreement, which was executed in May of 22. That was for $75,000, which included phase one scope of work for engineering and architectural services for the fire station and the public works. The modification is to add the additional pre-designed services as detailed. The other document, by the way, is a recommendation from our group with regard to those additional services. They total $78,340, which brings the total contract to $153,340. The additional services aren't additional costs that would not have been incurred with the project. These are all things that needed to be done. They included master planning services, phase one environmental site analysis, phase two environmental site analysis, topographic survey, and geotechnical investigation. So our recommendation is that these be approved, basically to pay the third-party vendors that DLZ contracted with on those additional services. And the original agreement, the $75,000, the work that was for that phase one work has been completed. So all of that work is done. Additional work that DLZ would proceed with regard to any schematic design or anything going forward with the project at this point would be at their risk until the BOT is brought on board later in December, at which point that would be assigned to that development group. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
There are funds budgeted this year for this project. We talked about in the past soft costs, those types of things. So it's a budgeted for item. Just a little bit of an odd way to get here.
Yeah.
So are those things that are already done with the phase one and phase two environmental site analysis? And those other items, they're already done?
Those pre-designed services, those reports, that work has been done and the reports have been received. We have that information, yes. And that it was important to have in anticipation of just looking at the site and understanding how design needed to proceed, if there were any issues with the site that we needed to know with regard to mitigation, et cetera, as we're moving through design.
Any further questions for David or discussion? If not, would entertain a motion to approve the amendment as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Rodney, seconded by Dee. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Up next, Mike McNeely. Two things. Take-home car.
Good evening, Board. You want me to start with take-home car?
Sure.
Okay. So I emailed you guys on August 25th some stats and some information about take-home car policy. What I'm looking for tonight is a support of an executive order by me to change our policy until our policies get updated. As you know, we're in the process of updating our policies using the Lexipol program. We're anticipating that hopefully soon for you guys to be able to adopt. And what I would like to do is go ahead and make those changes now as a favor for our recruitment and retention program that we're dealing with, as all law enforcement and all employers are dealing with, of how do you recruit and how do you retain your employees. When we did our study, we found that that was about the second thing that we're missing. We feel like with the raise that is proposed, that we're going to be in a much better spot than we were a few years ago, and that this was a huge benefit the officers look at. Also, there's a history of officers that have not chosen to apply with the Greensburg Police Department because of our policy.
So your recommendation would be, there were several different counties that did different things.
Sure.
I mean, are you saying like a 50-mile radius? Are you a county,
Sure.
an adjacent county? Or I guess I'm asking what
Sure.
your recommendation
So
would be.
what my recommendation is, it would be a take-home car in any surrounding county, and then those officers that live in the county, the ability to use them off-duty. And then there is another portion of that for administrative positions and on-call positions. I think we have listed a 45-mile radius. And what we did with that is any time an on-call officer is called back, our policy states currently that they need to be able to respond in 1 hour. And so we think that in the current situation, our on-call officers are driving their personal vehicle somewhere on a weekend. They're limited in how far they can go because they'll have to respond home and then into the station. And we just feel that this would give them greater ability to get in that time frame that we'd like them to be in.
So the ones that live in the county can use the card for personal use. Is that only if they stay within the county, or are they
Yes.
allowed to take it out of the county?
No, in county use only. Currently, they only can drive them into, if they live out in the county, they currently can only drive in to work out, to go to court, something like that. We're seeing more and more the benefits of an officer that is, maybe he's running to the hardware store to get something for a project and he happens to be in his police car and encounters someone that needs some help, or is able to back up a police officer on a traffic stop, or there's been times where they've gone to emergency scenes just because they were sometimes in their personal car, and then also sometimes in their police car if they were in working out or at the courthouse, or stopped at the PD to do some paperwork.
How many vehicles do we have?
We currently have 20 patrol vehicles. We have 5 administrative cars, and then some auxiliary vehicles.
Do we have enough vehicles that we can get a vehicle to each officer?
Yeah, currently every officer is assigned to their own patrol vehicle.
Awesome. Thank you.
Can you remind me again how it works with gas, the gas in the car?
So right now, the officers, if they fuel up the car, they use the city's fuel card.
So will they continue to do that when they're using for personal use as well, or how does that come work?
So there was no decision by us. That would be a decision if you guys had a recommendation or anything like that we could definitely discuss. But as of now, because it is a city-owned vehicle, we were asking to use city funds to fuel that.
So, primary change we're making is that we are now allowing, with the change, it would be allowed for an officer to live in Franklin County or Ripley or an adjacent county. They're also able to use it off-duty, as currently the officers who live within the county can use it off-duty. They have the same, be restricted to coming and going for court, workout, and running errands within the county that they're residing in as well as Decatur County?
No, the difference there would be if they live in a different county, it's to home only and back into work.
Okay.
Unless they're on call, then they're
Unless they're
allowed
on
a
call.
45-mile
And then
radius.
they've got a 45-mile radius, okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Currently, we have 6 officers that live outside of the county. The maximum mileage is 24 miles, and we have one guy that lives 1/2 mile outside of the county.
And-
I think it's a great plan. Even when the officer is off duty and the vehicle is being seen in public, those people don't know whether that officer is on duty or not. So, in a way, it's doing its job just by being visible. And I think it's a great plan.
When do you expect that we will get the complete revision of policy that you're looking at?
Currently, we're waiting on city attorney to finish up the high-risk policies to make sure that we're in line on all of those. Once that's done, we'll be ready to present it to you.
So it's likely that by the end of the year, or by the first of the year, we will be able to have a complete revision and a complete look at everything. So this, what we're asking for now is until we have a chance to look at the complete review.
Yes, and what we
Which,
would,
and this may be continued, but
sure.
we're not making this an indefinite thing until we look at the whole thing.
Yeah, and probably what we'll do is we'll present the policy as this.
Right.
And then if there's
Adjustments.
adjustments, then we can look at it then, sure.
Okay. Other questions, colleagues? I would move approval of this change in policy for take-home cars for police officers, as discussed.
On the temporary, yeah.
On it as a temporary until we make adjustments in total policy revision.
Motion's been made by Glenn, seconded. Any further comments? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Perfect.
Thank you. The second thing I'm bringing to you, there was a letter in your spot when you got here. It's a promotion of Officer Randall Kennedy. Officer Kennedy is quickly coming up on his 1-year appointment as a police officer here. It actually falls in the middle of the week, so what we're asking is that it would be backdated to the 23rd, which is 2 or 3 days ahead, so that it helps Julie out with payroll on the pay schedule. He has completed our field training program with high remarks from his supervisors. He graduated the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy and earned top honors in firearms, finishing second in his class of, I think it was 120 students, and represented the city of Greensburg very well.
I would move that we promote Officer Kennedy.
Second.
Motion's been made by Dee, seconded by Jamie. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Officer Kennedy, or Kennedy.
Up next, Zeke Smith, the wastewater superintendent. Good evening, Zeke.
Hello, good board, mayor. In front of you guys are a couple quotes for a couple lift station pumps. Seeking to purchase. This money is budgeted for these pumps, so we're good there. I'll kind of start with the city park lift station. We've had a pump there that's been down for about 6 weeks. Waiting on repair, waiting on parts. Parts are really hard to get, as you guys know, for about anything nowadays, especially pumps. So that thing's been down. Typically when a pump was down for a week or days or however long we had the ability to call and rent a pump. Since just the shortage of parts and kind of COVID, we've kind of lost the ability to do so. So that puts us in a different position to respond. So 2 pumps are needed at that lift station. That lift station receives a lot of flow, so typically if there's about a ½ inch of rain or better, that lift station can get so much water, rain, that we have to pull the floats out of the wet well because it can't keep up with 2 pumps. So it receives a lot of flow. We're currently at 1 pump and have been for about 6 weeks, just waiting on that repair. So looking to purchase a pump for that lift station. Pretty much in the same position with Rolling Meadows. It's a little more unique. Essentially, we have a couple pumps over there that's been problematic for about a year. They're showing a higher amp draw in the last few months. I figure they'll both go out at once. They're kind of trailing each other. We don't have a backup for that one as well, so just puts us in a better position to respond. So.
Make a motion, we approve the purchase of both pumps.
What kind of cost are we talking about?
One's 17,000, one's around 10,000.
Okay.
Are both budgeted?
Yes.
I would second.
Motion's been made to purchase both by Jamie, second by Dee. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Thanks, Dee.
Thanks, guys.
Ron May, City Engineer. We have a couple different items. Storm drain repair is the first one.
Good evening, and welcome back, Lynn.
Thank you.
We have experienced for a little more than a year now a storm drainage problem in the block south of North Street, bounded on the east by Stewart Street and on the west by Lathrop. There is low ground in there. About a year ago, we discovered a storm sewer that traverses that area that simply isn't working. It's in an area with a lot of trees and tree roots, and it's rendered that old storm sewer unusable. A year ago, we did a little bit of work along North Street. We replaced 80 or 100 feet of that sewer, got past a large tree that we initially were hopeful would be at least some relief to the problem. It turned out that it needed more than just that short distance. We have prepared a design that would replace the storm sewer starting in the alley a half a block north of North Street and immediately west of Stewart Street. That storm sewer would then proceed up that alley heading to the west. There's a low point in that alley where we would plan to put in a storm inlet to help relieve standing water in that neighborhood. There is a north-south alley just east of Lathrop Street. Where those two alleys intersect, we would go to the north to North Street and then along North Street to connect back into the work that was performed a year ago. We have invited proposals from 3 contractors. One of those 3, Shooty Excavating, responded that they had a workload under contract that would not permit them to make a proposal. We did receive a proposal from Johanningman Excavating, a lump sum for that work in the amount of $65,800, and also from Dave O'Mara Contracting, a proposal in the amount of $49,504. Also a part of that project, the north-south alley running south from North Street has a lot of vegetation on the east side of the alley, and that vegetation is such that it will not permit an excavator to dig through that alley. So we have 2 proposals for tree trimming services to clean up the alley so we can get an excavator through there. One is from the Hahn Family Tree Service, and their proposal is $3,500 for trimming back those trees. The other is from Adams Tree Service, and their proposal is $3,400 for trimming back those trees.
This is something that we kind of found, maybe is the best way to say, last year when it blew apart due to water pressure and a tremendous amount of rain.
Right.
And then we've spent some time on site, and we've done what you mentioned, including the fire department dumped a couple tanker loads of water down for us and never really came out the other end. So we've really spent a lot of time trying to figure out where it goes and how to get there. It was laid limestone where we were looking at, it's like a box.
There is a laid-up limestone box culvert on the far east end.
So it's not like something we just came up with. We've really been looking at, and I know homeowners in that block have been asking about our next steps with it as well. So much needed project, but one that kind of showed up on us.
This is something that can be done here within a month or two. I mean, we're talking doing it immediately, right? Or
Yes,
soon?
as soon as the contractor fits it into his schedule, and the suggestion was they can do that fairly quickly. It's a good winter project.
Okay, so here's something that could be done in December if necessary.
Yes, the only real limitation, if the ground freezes hard enough and deep enough, it will make digging difficult. I guess the other little caveat on whether there will be a little bit of concrete sidewalk work as a part of this. And once we get into freezing weather, that will not be appropriate. We might put that portion off until spring.
Is that also gonna close the road for a little bit there?
It will close the alley for the alleys for maybe a week.
But not the road next to the school?
Should not. We will have, so there's a stretch of this that will be in the parkway between the sidewalk and the curb on the south side of North Street. So there will be equipment in the area, but we would not close the street.
Sounds like a project we need to do. Could we have some funds to start doing it?
You want a motion to use Dave O'Meara for the stormwater work and Adam's tree trimming service for the tree
That would
service?
be my recommendation, yes.
So I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion's been made by Jamie, seconded by Glenn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, perfect.
And, excuse me, so I've been, the next agenda item is the stormwater appeals, and I've been looking at the ordinance and trying to determine if there is methodology that we can utilize to more efficiently work through some of those, because obviously the one where we had 35 of them, it took a while. So I do believe that pursuant to the ordinance, it is contemplated that it would be a public hearing, not necessarily a public meeting. So at this time, I would ask the mayor to open it as a public hearing on stormwater appeals. Everybody okay with that?
Is there a motion to open the public hearing on stormwater appeals?
So moved.
Motion made by Jamie, second.
Second.
Second by Glenn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
I believe the most efficient way to do this, rather than doing them in bulk, would be to simply call them pursuant to the petitioner. So, because there are several of them, you noticed in your packet, where you may have multiple parcels by the same petitioner. So if we simply call all of the ones for that given petitioner, allow Ron to present to you what is the petition, ask for if there's anyone here to speak on that particular petition, and then vote up or down on that particular grouping of petitions associated therewith. I think that would be an efficient way of doing it. So I think, Ron, I think you can start with 22-39, which would be the Crown Point Homeowners Association, or Crown Point of Greensburg Homeowners.
Okay. Okay. So the Crown Point of Greensburg homeowners property is an interesting piece of property in that they own all of the common ground but none of the individual dwelling units, nor do they own the property on the left here that you see, which is the assisted living center. Not sure the proper name. So they own all of the driveways, all of the sidewalk, and all of the road itself. And before I go on, I guess, last month you all discussed what an improved property was. And Chris offered an opinion that it is as designated by the county, and that is correct as far as it went. I did some research and learned that properties identified by the county as being improved were treated by this as improved property. But we went on beyond that in this process and did a visual review of all Class 4 properties, which are the ones where their fees are based on the number of equivalent residential units. And in that visual investigation, if they found evidence of impervious surface, it is the impervious surface that is the improvement for the purpose of this ordinance and this process. One other thing to remind you, the ordinance permits appeal only as the result of misclassification of a parcel, or if the impervious area was miscalculated. So those are the only two things that get considered in this process. The Crown Point of Greensburg homeowners property was correctly classified as a Class 4 property, so they were assessed their stormwater utility fees based upon the area of impervious area. So I also reviewed the impervious area on their property, and I determined that they have 63,093 square feet, which equates to 21.03 ERUs. They were initially billed on the basis of 8.84 ERUs. And so their assessment based on the new area of impervious would increase from $30.94 to $73.61.
How did you calculate the impervious area?
I used the aerial photography as was originally used and measured in CAD those areas that are impervious.
As I heard you say, that not only the street, but the driveways are part of the homeowners association. So that's part, that's one of those things where the homeowner across the street has a driveway, that's part of their residential, and so they're only charged a residential fee. This situation, had that been the case, it had only been the road primarily that's left, and a sidewalk, I guess.
Yes.
But now they've got the,
So you calculate all the driveways?
had to include the driveways, yes.
All the sidewalk, all the driveways, all the curbing, all the pavement.
Right. Well, per the ordinance, I don't think there's anything we can do but agree. It's a circumstance that they're gonna have to work out themselves through their own, each homeowner there have to divvy up their portion of their driveway.
I believe there's probably going to be a homeowners association meeting there where they get to discuss how to do that, but that's not what the city, that's applying the ordinance as applied would dictate a denial of this particular appeal and potentially a recalculation in light of the error identified in the appeal. But I would ask the mayor to determine if there's anyone here from the public to speak on this particular petition.
Before we do that, any other questions is anyone from the public here to speak on this particular appeal? Seeing none. Glenn, did I hear a motion coming?
Yes, a motion to deny.
We're in the public hearing now, right?
You can't do a motion to deny. You can do a motion to approve the recommendation of the engineer and deny the appeal.
But to Jamie's point, because we're in a public hearing, that's okay?
We need to close the public hearing and then vote on those things.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. You're right. Yes, so move on to the next one, and then we'll do a quick motions at the end after the public hearings are closed. So that'd mean, Ron, you can next call 22-40.
The next one is the BP station at the intersection of State Road 3 and Michigan Avenue. I can't read the writing, so I can't tell you the name. It's,
I believe it's Amal Patel.
but the property is owned under the name of Rehab or something Property LLC. I again reviewed their classification. They were classified as Class 4, which is correct. And I reviewed their impervious area and found 44,790 square feet, which results in 14.7 something ERUs. And any time you take area off of an aerophotography, you're going to have minor variations. But this is close enough to satisfy me that the original assessment is correct.
Is there any questions for Ron? Anyone from the audience or the public here to speak on petition number 40? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to the next one.
I believe this would be 22-41 and 22-42.
Yeah. So this is the property occupied by Sweets Auto and Wrecker on West Main Street. There are two parcels involved here. The parcel where they run their shop out of, and then the next parcel to the west. Starting with the main parcel, which is 41, they were correctly classified as Class 4 property. Their impervious area was checked and confirmed to be 39,200 plus square feet, which results in the 13.08 ERUs as originally assessed. It is my recommendation that their assessment is correct and that it should be, this appeal should be denied. Their other parcel is the next one to the west. It was also classified as a Class 4 property. The impervious area was checked and confirmed to be 7,396 square feet, or the 2.47 ERUs as originally assessed. It is my recommendation that their appeal be denied.
Right, the stormwater fee on dash 42 is $8.63. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so I just
No,
believe
no.
they're at the,
No,
on 42?
2.47.
I believe I have the wrong number.
Yeah.
at the bottom.
Just
Yes.
before we send that back, we may want to
We'll correct that.
correct that. Okay.
Because
Any other questions for Ron on
the
41?
43, 863 is correct.
Any other questions for Ron on these two? Anyone from the audience here to speak on dash 41 or 42? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to 43.
Petition 2022-43 is an agricultural field located on the south side of Park Road, generally behind the property owned by the radio station. that property was originally classified as a Class 2 property, which is an unimproved property. I found that to be correct. They were assessed 0.33 ERUs per the ordinance for unimproved property, and their monthly fee is $1.16 per month for the parcel. I recommend that their appeal be denied.
Any questions for Ron on 43? Anyone from the audience here to speak on 43? Seeing none, we'll move on to 44.
44, 45, 46, and 47 are all appeals filed by Tim and Kim Reynolds LLC, all located on East Main Street. I'm going to skip 44 initially, and I'm going to go to 45, 46, and 47. Each of those was classed as Class 4. I reviewed and found that to be the correct classification for those three. And I checked the impervious area of each of those three and found all of them to be substantially as they were invoiced. So for 45, 10.73 ERU, for 46, 21.55, and for 47, 5.41. I recommend that those three appeals be denied. The fourth one, which is 22-44, is a property on the west side of the Napa store. That property had originally been classified as a Class 2 property, or a vacant property with no improvements. In investigating the situation, I was able to determine they have a paved lot on that site, which would make it a Class 4. And I determined an impervious area of 13,609 square feet, which is 4.54 ERUs, and would result in a monthly assessment of $15.89, not the $1.16 that they've been invoiced.
So your recommendation on that is that the appeal be denied and the information be corrected and they bill it properly?
Yes.
Any questions for Ron on those? Anybody from the public to speak on these four? Hearing none, I think that takes us to the end.
Make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Motion's been made by Jamie, seconded by Glenn to close the public hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
I'd make a motion that we adhere to the recommendations from the city engineer on all the appeals.
Second.
Motion's been made by Jamie, seconded by Glenn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you, Ron, for all the hard work on that. You will notify all the appeal.
Yes, Don and I have been talking about a procedure to accomplish that.
Thank you. Just a few more items this evening. In your packets, you will see a copy of a revised proposal for the rest of the North Park improvements that Cole and Marissa have talked to us about. It is actually, we went back and checked the bid because it had been so long, the price, to make sure that we were well within our scope, and actually it is $800 less than when they priced it this summer, which I think is great. We've got the concrete work all lined up, ready to go. Any final questions before that? If not, we take a motion to approve those as presented.
So moved.
Motion's made by Dee, seconded by Rodney. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, a couple things before we get to the bills. Final Public Safety Cookout is October 20th, 6 to 8 p.m. It is out in Ryle Edition. We hope that you can join us. The chili has been decided. We had a very good employee engagement lunch to decide who was going to represent each department. So C-shift from the fire department and admin and investigations from the police department, and we had a really great time with lunch over some fellow coworkers to decide that. So we're going to be out there. Come out and join us. As always, free and open to everyone. The Fire Park building is coming along really nicely. We will have the ribbon cutting on Wednesday, October 19th, 10 a.m. I know that's kind of an odd time, but Elaine Beadle, who is the secretary, director, CEO, that was sign language from Kristen, CEO of the Destination Development Corporation for Indiana, who provided a grant for the building, will be joining us as well. So we should have a really nice event and be able to take a look at that before it gets too cold out. So if you can join us, please do so. And then finally, our Board of Works and City Council meeting in November will be Wednesday, November 9th, because the 8th is Election Day. Please go out and vote. Early voting is at the courthouse this year and not here, but Tuesday's Election Day, so obviously the city will be closed. No meetings. Those will be on Wednesday. Anything else before we approve the claims? Okay, you all should have received a copy of the claims. Any edits, additions, or questions? If not, take a motion to approve those as presented.
So moved.
Motion made by Glenn, seconded by Jamie. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Anything else? If not, take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Dee. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everyone.